Hello, this is Cece, and you're listening to WGSN-DB Going Solo Network. And we have with us today, we have Laura Metheney. And Laura Metheney is a life coach extraordinaire. She has really over 15 years of working in the various social services agencies, foster care, CPS, psychiatric hospital, domestic violence shelter, and the list goes on. And so we are so fortunate to have her with us today. You know, what we're going to talk about today, we're going to kind of get a little bit heavy with it because I think it's important that you all know that, you know, even though we are traveling through our lives, we still have unresolved issues. And so that's what our topic is going to be here on Going Solo with Cece. And I'm so happy to have you with us, Laura. Welcome to the show.
Oh, thanks. I'm glad to be here. Thanks for inviting me.
It is great having you. Now, you have given really your professional career, your life to helping others. So tell us how you got into not only doing what you're doing within, you know, the social services that you've been doing for so many years, but now moving forward into being a life coach and helping, you know, others professionally, you know, one-on-one. So tell us, how did you get into that line of work?
Well, it's been something that's probably been a part of my set of talents for a long time, and I didn't realize it for a while. I was a late bloomer going back to college. I did the 20-year program getting my bachelor's degree, and then a 3-year program doing my master's degree. So I took the long way because life had gotten in the way, like it does for a lot of people with various things. And so as I went to different social service agencies, people kept telling me that, you know, you give such great advice and you motivate people to do things, especially in my current position for the last 12 years, working in Department of Rehab, being a senior vocational rehab counselor. And people had been telling me for years and years and years, you should consider doing some life coaching, getting into that as well, because the advice I give on a day-to-day basis isn't just applicable to my clients, but it's applicable to everybody, because during my day job, what I do is I help people figure out what they want to do when they grow up in regards to career. But it's not just the career aspect, it's life in general, because to be able to pursue it for a lot of our clients, there's many aspects of their life they need to put back together. It's not just, oh, I just have to work on my career goals or job search or training. I also have to figure out how I'm going to deal with my relationships in my life, my love life, my children, my friends, and even myself. How am I going to deal with the relationship with myself and how to make that work? And so I decided, it'd been on the back of my mind for the past 7 or 8 years to do it, but life had gotten in the way in a way that I couldn't make it happen until just the last couple of years. So I decided to branch out and decided part of my life goals was to not just have my day job, but to be able to have things that when I retire down the road in 8 to 10 years, I can still have other things I'm pursuing, because I often tell people that retirement number that they throw out, 62, 65, for the most part anymore, it's just an arbitrary number, because when they first started it many decades ago, people didn't live too long after 65. And now they live 25, 30 years or more past that, and a time to have another career, another life. So instead of just telling people to do it, I decided I was going to start doing what I wanted to do on the side and get it up and going.
That's that's very inspiring, because I think a lot of people, you know, as they're making that transition from divorce, you know, through to the transition of dating, they're also looking at the aspect of their career and their life and what path that's going to take them. And I do believe in coaching tremendously, because I think we all need it, you know, including myself. We need that, I guess, that cheerleader in our corner. You know, we need someone that kind of can guide us and lead us into, you know, clear thinking. And so I think coaching is really a great aspect for people, and it's also a good career if you like helping people, if you have some intuitive skills, you know, things like that. It does definitely help people. So tell us a little bit about, you know, when we kind of get stuck a little bit, what we don't realize that we're stuck, but we have like these unresolved issues that we're kind of dealing with. And I know you in your practice, you've been coming across this more and more. And so tell us a little bit about that.
Okay. A lot of time whenever I work with people, and it happens to all of us, myself included, we have unresolved issues. And even though whenever we get rid of some unresolved issues, we're always going to have other unresolved issues that pop up. It's just part of what being human and what bonds us all together. And so one of the techniques I've learned over the years that I use with clients, and something we were talking about earlier, is grief counseling. And most people kind of look at me a little funny when I say it, because they're thinking, but I don't have anybody who's recently died that I need to deal with grief about. Well, grief is not just about death in the fact of a physical person dying. There's all the various other losses in our life, including things like divorce or any other loss of a relationship, a loss of a job, somebody losing their house, dealing with other issues in their life that would constitute a loss for them. And a lot of time, it's been my experience that if people don't deal with that, it will sabotage you at some point for the rest of your life, and keep being the cycle that goes through your life. Especially when you start making progress, it'll suddenly just rear up and bite you, and you'll be going, I don't know why I can't get any farther. And then as they get exploring it, they'll realize, oh yeah, that one thing so-and-so said to me 25 years ago, still, because I never have made peace or made grief with that loss about something they said, something somebody did to me, something that happened to me, that is just like, it's just that part of me that I keep getting stuck in, it just won't let me go forward.
Right.
And
so are you saying it's like that little voice in your head that kind of keeps coming back at you and saying those kind of negative or bringing that stuff forward? Is that what you mean?
Yes, definitely. And a lot of time it happens whenever people are starting to make progress. It's kind of like that. It is a voice that kind of just says, you know what? You can't do this. Or it'll be something that you don't even hear a voice. It'll just be somehow you'll find a way to sabotage yourself. And when you get to looking into it, you'll find that it's related to something that happened to you before in your life that you haven't, or even recently that you haven't made peace with or allowed yourself to make the peace with or grieve or deal with, because I can't acknowledge that loss because I might be seen as weak, or I need to just grow up and deal with it. An adult doesn't do that. And or I don't have time. That's another one. It's like I don't have time to do it, which is another part of that process. Is you have to make time for yourself, including dealing with these issues, because if you don't, you can never really move forward. You move forward in parts, but never in a whole. It's always
Right.
lingering.
Yeah. So is there any words of advice you can give us, and in order to be able to, start healing from that? I mean,
yeah, definitely. I would encourage people to start working on trying to figure out what it is that seems to sabotage them a lot with whatever it is they're trying to pursue, and to be able to either reach out to somebody, a neutral party, definitely. Sometimes family and friends with their best intentions, because they care too much or they have their own agendas with you, are not necessarily always the best person to talk to about this stuff, because they can either get defensive if they may be a part of whatever the issue is that's holding you back, or they, in their desire to and caring for you, which is not a bad thing, to be able to help you be able to stay positive, can't always be honest with you about it, and can't go down that journey with you. So I always encourage people to find a neutral party to talk to, somebody who's going to be supportive, who's not just going to be cheering you on because they think that's what needs to happen instead of what really needs to happen, or who maybe not really be willing to ask the questions that other people in your life may not want to know the answer to.
Right. So what happens if you don't really, you keep coming up like a brick wall to certain issues? Like, let's say you're trying to develop a new relationship with someone, or you're beginning on that transition of dating, but things just aren't working out all the time. And so would that trigger for us to think maybe we have some unresolved issues, or is it just like bad luck? We're just experiencing, how do we know when we have something that's happening to us that might be a little bit negative, but not too awful negative? But how do we know that it could be something that's unresolved with us, not necessarily, just faith or just way things happen? How can we tell?
I often ask people just that very question. Why do you think this is still happening to you? Or why do you think why do you keep repeating a pattern that you can't seem to get out of a loop? And ask them to think about it, because often we go with our feelings and not necessarily examine it with our head as to why we are hitting the same brick wall, why we keep staying in the same loop or repeating the same pattern. Like, how come I keep picking the same type of person to date all the time? Just because I divorced somebody, here I am down. I keep going back to that same similar type of person, and I keep having the same outcome. And sometimes asking yourself and willing to take a serious look at it can be what helps you get work through that issue, so you don't keep going that same cycle or keep getting yourself in those same situations. Because you have to really think about it, and it's hard. It's hard for us to say, maybe I am part of what's going on in a way that I'm not thinking why I'm doing something, or why I suddenly am always attracted to the, for lack of a better phrase, the bad boy, bad girl situation, or I keep picking jobs that I'm not good at, or I don't like, or hanging out with people that aren't really having my best interest in my life. Why am I doing that? And really examining why you are doing that.
Right. I think that's great advice. I think so often too that we don't realize it, but if we just sit down for a little bit and we really give it some heartfelt thought, and kind of go over some of the issues. So often we feel, and I speak, solely for myself, is that we feel it's not us. We think it's something else out there. And then when it just keeps happening and happening, then we have to stop. And I do it myself. I stop and think, okay, what's a common element here? And it's me. So I need to actually look at that and reevaluate it. So, and I don't think it's such a bad thing. Do you? I mean, I think it's a great thing to stop for a minute and take a breath and really look at your situation and embrace it. What do you think?
Oh yeah, definitely. Because it's good to be able to just kind of stop and take a breather and figure out what you need to do, or even just take a vacation and not even worry about whatever, being in that same cycle. One thing that's well-known psychology is the fact that once we get into a rut, even if it's a rut or something we're doing that's not in our best interest, we're as human beings, we tend to like what we know, and even weird or not good situations for us can end up being a comfort zone for us, because it's too scary to crawl over the side of the rut and figure out what might be over there, much less go see it. Because at least we know what the answer is to, even if it is not a positive thing for us.
Yeah, that is so right. Absolutely so right. Well, I tell you what, we're going to take a quick break. And when we do, what we're going to do is we're going to come back and we're going to talk a little bit more about how we can move forward. But before we go, though, I'd like to share with everyone your blog site you have. So tell us a little bit about that.
Okay. I started a blog about a year ago as part of my moving forward with getting the life coaching stuff started up. And so part of the reason I use Luna Gaia is it was a nickname a friend of mine gave me a long time ago that was part of my first email address and has been just this constant thing. So it's basically, the name of it is Luna Gaia Living Life, and it's under www.lunagaia.org. And people can reach me either through the blog, they can reach me at LinkedIn as well under my name, Laura Metheney, and also on Facebook, I'm under Luna Gaia Living Life as well.
Wonderful. That's absolutely wonderful. And I hope that if anyone wants to email you, they can definitely do the same thing. They can do it under lunagaia1@hotmail.com.
Yes.
And so, I want them to be able to have this information. So if they want to reach you and do some personal coaching, I think it would be absolutely great for them. So I want to make sure they have it. So we're going to take a quick break. When we come back, we're going to talk a little bit more, I think, further on how can we dig a little bit deeper into, what's going on in our lives to be able to try to figure it out. So I think it's really a great thing for everyone. So you are listening to WGSN-DB Going Solo Network, and this is CC with Going Solo. I want to thank you all for listening to us each and every week. It's just a blessing. You guys are a blessing. blessing, and we can't be here without you. So I want to let you know that we appreciate you, and we appreciate you listening to us. We hope that you are healing and moving forward in your life each and every day, moment and hour, as you go through whatever it is that you're going through, knowing that you're not alone, that you do have thinking partners and someone that cares about you right here on WGSN-DB. Going Solo Network. So we're going to get right back to the show because we got a lot to cover and the time just flies. We have Laura Metheney with us. She is a life coach and she has been 15 years in the social services agency. She's been through foster care, CPS, psychiatric, if I could only speak, hospital, and domestic violence shelter. I mean, she's helped people all her life, and now she's moving forward into being a life coach. She's really embracing that, trying to be more one-on-one, helping people as she's helped people in her past. So we thank you so much for coming back to the show with us.
Oh, thanks for having me.
It's great. Well, the first part of the show, I think, was very important because what we covered, sometimes listening to that little voice in your head that's not always so negative, not always so positive, but very negative. And it kind of puts us a little bit in a holding pattern sometimes, which is difficult for us. But you gave us some really good information. Number one, you said to really think hard about your situation and what you've been through, and kind of do a little bit of soul searching, and because sometimes we have the answers from within, and we keep them kind of sheltered, and maybe from fear. And I think you had mentioned that at one time too, and really talking to a neutral party, someone that doesn't maybe necessarily know you, so they can get to know you, start to understand who you are, what makes you tick, and someone that you can really share your darkest secrets, some fearful things that you are struggling with, and they can look at it from an open mind, which coaches normally and always do. I should say not normally, but they always do. And they help you kind of in that path. So that was our first part of the show. We covered a lot of ground, but let's talk about that fear factor, because I've always thought that fear factor is the number one thing that kind of holds us back to really moving forward in our life. And sometimes wouldn't you say sometimes fear makes us make decisions that are maybe not in our best interest?
Oh yes, definitely. Because a lot of how fear is basically a fight or flight reaction, and encourages us to do one or the other. And often we go back to our comfort zone. Are we more comfortable running away, or are we more comfortable standing our ground? And it's easier to actually, run away from something than it is to deal with it head on. And everybody has those issues. I mean, I don't care who they are or what they say. We've all had those moments, and we'll all continue to have those moments in our life where we do run away from things because it's a safety issue. We may just not be ready to deal with something right now or face it. But that doesn't mean necessarily that we can't in the future when we're ready to. And recognizing that and not assuming, I'm afraid to go there, that must mean I'm a weak person or there's something wrong with me. It just means your head and your heart may not be there to be able to face it. And, but if you are willing to face it, it's learning to be comfortable with the fact that, again, it may be one of those things to where the answers you find for yourself may not always be what you think they're going to be, or they may not be positive, but so-called negative answers aren't necessarily a bad thing either. It can give us something to work on, because we can explore why we are that way, and how if we so desire, we can change that, work through it. My grandmother used to always say when she was alive, and she lived till she was in her 90s, that you're never handed anything. You don't have the ability or the talent either. Dig under, crawl over, blow it away, or go around it. You just have to decide when you're ready to do that, and nobody else can make that decision but you. And that's why it's always good to work with a neutral person, because they aren't going to pass a judgment on you. They're just going to help you figure out what you need to do and how to go about that, and how you want to go about it is the most important, because there is no cookie cutter answer to that. Everybody's unique in how they want to handle things and what's going on in their life and how best to deal with it.
Yeah, it's great advice. We all have that intuitive skill. We all have that, that feeling. And so often in my life, I've come across things that I don't pay attention to. And, alarms go off and I don't, I have this goodness about me, and I tend to let that roll. And I think a lot of people are the same. I mean, I don't think I'm one, one out of whatever, but I think there's, and as I talk and share with other people, I realize that they all have the same ability to kind of see, but they don't react to it. And so I'd like to kind of bring up boundaries. I think sometimes we have to not put ourselves in a box, but we do have to set some sort of boundaries for ourselves. So if we see a path that we're going down that may not be good for us, we have to say, whoa, stop, wait a minute here. This is not going to work for me.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that's really a great thing. So what is your take on setting boundaries for ourselves that are a good positive way, not reacting in a negative way of fear, which is, stepping back and not putting ourselves in a box, but allowing ourselves to be able to go out? What would you say? What would your advice be on that?
I think boundaries are a good thing. They're healthy, because it's important to feel safe and secure. And boundaries also help us define who we are, such as, I don't cross that line because I don't go agree with whoever's doing whatever, because it's not who I am. It's not what goes with my comfort level, with who I am, what I feel is in the best interest of myself. It's hard to set boundaries, especially for people who care a lot, especially for people who work in helping fields, and such, because there's that desire to want to fix everything, help everybody. I want to be, and then for most people, I don't want to be alone. I want to be a part of whatever it is, this club, this group of people, this fashion, this trend, whatever it is. I want to be one of those people, not one of the people who are always on the outside looking in. Or I just want to be accepted. I want to be loved. And if being loved means I cross my boundaries, so be it. But we have to it goes back to that's self-identity and finding out who you are. And part of it is figure out what your boundaries are. Not just encompassing everything in the world, but figuring out what works for you and what keeps you safe and healthy, moving forward, happy, successful in whatever you need help finding success in.
Yeah, I that's great advice. Absolutely wonderful advice. And so often, we can move the boundary level. We can move the gate open a little bit more, or the door open. So, but we do have to have that, because we have to think of ourselves. We have to take care of ourselves and be good to ourselves. And
oh yeah,
so often I think we're not. We try to be, especially the ones in the helping field, they try to help others, and they're not helping themselves. And so, and I've seen that a lot.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And women tend to have a harder time with boundaries than men do a lot of time, because still, even in the 21st century, women are still kind of taught to don't be selfish. Think of everybody else, not yourself, including your boundary issues. And one of the things I work on with people a lot of time is teaching them that it's okay to be selfish. Selfish is not necessarily a bad thing, because you teach people how to treat yourself, which includes what you think your self-worth is, which is part of where boundaries come in, because what your self-worth on is based on what you feel is important to you.
Yeah, I agree with that. I think that's so right. And, it's shaping us. So as we're progressing in our lives, no matter where we are at the very beginning of a relationship loss, moving towards that transition, maybe starting into dating, opening the doors there for us, or even, blossoming into a new relationship, whether it be a partnership or work or whatever. We have to really start looking at what makes us happy, because gosh, life is short, isn't it?
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah. It is so short. And so we want to be able to embrace, who we are and continue to grow. And I love what you're saying, Laura, because I think it's really spot on. It really is going to help people out there to know that they're not alone in the struggles that they feel in life, but, there is help there for them. And so I like what you're doing. So now you do one-on-one coaching. Are you able to do that?
Oh yes, definitely.
Okay.
Definitely.
And you can do that right there at, at home, right on the internet, can't you?
Oh yeah, definitely. I've been learning how to work Skype and have been having fun with that for
Yeah.
one. And this Zoom is a new one for me. So I'm now talking about expanding your horizons. And since I've been started doing the life coaching stuff, it's been a great learning tool for me too, because I've always been kind of a geeky person to begin with, and I'm very proud of that. But I've been learning lots of things about the computers and tech that I didn't already know, and technology and all the fun stuff that's out there. So,
Well, that's a great point of view, because when we're talking about unresolved issues, it's also about learning things, learning something new, thinking out of the box, really trying to embrace something that you've never embraced before. And I'm like you. I mean, technology really, every time I think I know something, I ask my 14-year-old and I find out I know nothing. But I am growing myself with it. And I know that I've had some challenges. I've tried to do some live broadcasting, and we were, right there in the thick of it, trying to make it happen. And I said to myself, you know what? I am determined, even though this is not working right, I'm going to make it work. I'm going to figure this out. I'm going to make this work for me. And I think that is what we need to do, is we need to say, gosh darn it, we're going to embrace something new that we've never embraced before. We may not know anything about it, but we're going to step out and just learn something new. So I think it's pretty cool what you're doing, and definitely you're going to help a lot of people.
Thank you.
Yeah, I can tell that for sure. And then your background in the social services really gives I would say a caring touch to it, because you know what people are going through, some of the hard times and the situations that people endure, and it's not sugar-coated,
Oh
so
no.
so often our lives, we want to pretend like it is, but we're messy,
Oh
we're messy
yeah.
sometimes. Yeah. So it's great that you've had that experience to be able to draw that out and be able to, help people get through some of those issues.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Yeah, so let's talk just a little bit, because I know we don't have too much time left, but if you had to share anything with the audience today, what would you like to leave as, closing, for them to understand more the depth of who you are and what you want to do in order to help people?
I would say probably some of my greatest enjoyment and has always been working with people. I always tell my clients I probably learn as much from them as hopefully they learn from me. So I see it as a two-way learning relationship as well. I also like to help people because I know through my own life at 56 that I've had my setbacks, I've had my ups and downs, I've had my people who have tried to pull me back, and I've had my people that have been in my corner going, "You can do this, whatever it is, just go for it." And I know for most people, they lack that, or they don't have enough of the cheerleaders in their life to be able to pursue what they want to do. Their spouse or their children, their friends, their parents, will be like, "Yeah, that's an idea, but I don't really know why you would want to do that," or you notice they're sabotaging you about it. And we never have enough people a lot of time in our corner saying, that is a good idea. How should you go about that? How can I help you figure out what you need to do? What's standing in your way? Because we've all had those obstacles, and till the day we die, we'll still have obstacles that come up in our life. And learning to work through them is growth. And I like seeing people reach their goals. I like seeing people see that there is more to life than just staying stuck in a rut, and being unhappy, because like you said, life is way too short to be unhappy, no matter what aspect of their life it is.
Yeah, I agree with that. We started the network trying to help singles, and not necessarily, well, we do want them to move forward in life. Absolutely want them to move forward. But we want them more, for me, to be happy with where they're at. Be
Oh
okay.
yeah.
Be okay with where they're at. Because if you're okay with where you're at, where you're going is going to be awesome.
Oh yeah, definitely.
Yeah. So it's really understanding that. And I like what you're talking about, unresolved issues, because I think we do get through especially talking from being single, you get through that, bit of divorce there. You get through all the elements of that, and now you find yourself single, and it's like, okay, now what do I do? Because I feel half broken. I still feel broken, and how am I going to be able to move forward? And so I love the idea of really looking at some of those unresolved issues that we might very well have, and understanding, are we putting up roadblocks? Are we putting up, things that are making us so we're not going to be successful to be able to move forward? And so often I've talked with, those that are dating, and I find that they're just totally not available. Even though they're out there dating and they've got the dates, they got things going on, but truly deep down inside, they're not going to bond in a relationship because they're not available.
Oh yeah, definitely, definitely. Most of my adult
painful.
life, I've been single. This is my second marriage. We've been married for 7.5 years, and my first marriage only lasted 2 years, and it was like 2 years too long. But that's fine. It was a learning lesson. But most of my adult life, I was a single parent. So I get where singles are coming from, because it's like, been there, done that, know what that's all about.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, absolutely. And so, so we want to make it, just a more pleasant experience, and being okay with where you're at, liking who you are, who you're becoming. And I feel that, raises your vibration, and someone really great's going to be coming into your life, and, and you'll be ready. You'll be ready for that.
Oh yeah, definitely, definitely. Relationships and love and friendship all come to us at various points in our life. And I often tell people, whatever it is you're trying to pursue in life, hopefully at 25, you're still not wanting the same things exactly that you wanted at 18, or at 35, or at 46, or at 56, or at 70. Hopefully there's been some growth, there's been some changes. And love is one of those things that it comes to you at various points in your life. And also, as long as you're breathing and you're above ground, the possibilities are there.
Oh, absolutely. And also, I was talking to someone, just to bring it up real quickly, is that I was talking to someone this weekend about, loves in your life. And even though you're divorced, doesn't necessarily mean that you no longer love that person. You just love them differently. And he was shocked at that. He thought, no, forget it. Once you're divorced, you don't love them anymore. And I don't think so. I think that when you've created a family, you've had a long-term relationship, you can't just turn love off. Love doesn't just turn off. But it does become softened and maybe a little bit more realistic. Maybe not, the edges aren't quite there sometimes, because as we travel through divorce, we're traveling through that pain of love, and that pain of love lost. And I think once we can get through to it, we can understand that we still can have love. We just have it differently, So so it was a really heady question, in a talking session that I had. So I thought maybe really think a lot about it, to see how I felt with that, because I just don't feel that when you love somebody, you don't just stop. It's just different, it gets a little softer. So I think it's very interesting. Well, I tell you, I love what you're saying. I know that you're going to be very successful in your coaching business, and as you move forward in your own life. So it's kind of exciting to hear that you're ramping up for something new, and you're embracing it, and that's what it's all about. Absolutely.
Oh yeah, definitely.
So again, Laura, tell us how we can get a hold of you. Tell us again your blog and the name of it, and how we can reach you.
Okay, you can reach me and follow me along on www.lunagaia.org. It's also called Luna Gaia Living Life. You can follow me on LinkedIn under Laura Metheney. You can follow me on Facebook under Luna Gaia Living Life. And you can also email me at lunagaia1@hotmail.com.
That's wonderful. That's wonderful. Well, I want to thank you so much for being on the station with us today. It's wonderful. And I think you've given us a lot of information, something we can really take back and think about, in our own personal lives, and help us to move forward. So I appreciate all the gifts that you've given us today, for sure.
Oh, my pleasure. Thank you for having me.
Yeah, well, you're very welcome. Well, this is Cece with Going Solo, and you are listening to WGSN-DB Going Solo Network. We'll see you next time. Bye for now.